And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, April 18th. We have a lot to cover on the show today, as we usually do. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss today. So we're going to start off the show. I did bring this up yesterday, I believe, but we didn't talk about Aaron Rodgers for a bit. Well, we're going to talk about him today because he did make an appearance on the Pat McAfee show and didn't really give us, a clear indication on if he's going to play or if he's going to retire. Both things are on the table, but we don't know where he's going to sign. He didn't tell us that. We'll get into what he talked about on the Pat McAfee show, mainly talking about his exit from the Jets and how that went down, the meeting with the new regime of the Jets. So we will get into that. We will talk about the play-in games for tonight. That will finalize the rest of the playoff series as we move into the first round. And speaking of the first round and the NBA playoffs in general, in the third part of the show, we'll give predictions, how the playoffs are going to play out, who I have going to the finals, all of that good stuff when we come back, or in the third part of the show. And then in the fourth part of the show, we'll talk about Aaron Judge, the start that he's gotten off to this season, and can he keep this level of play up as he approaches his mid-30s and beyond that? We'll talk about that later in the show, and then we will conclude the show with our final NFL post-free agency rankings, or division rankings. We will cover the AFC West today. Now, actually, before we get into talking about Aaron Rodgers, I do want to bring this up. So, got the show today that will take us into the weekend. Next week is the draft. Now, Friday, which is the 25th, which is a week from today, that will be my last show ever on GSMC. This is something that is going to happen. There was discussions behind the scenes about it. Obviously, nothing, bad. Nothing, just it will be my last show. I know it's, sad for some of you. But, yeah. No, it's I've been doing this for almost a couple of years now, and it's been a lot of fun. The interactions with you guys has been great, and we're going to make the most of it for the the next week. Next week's going to be great. But yeah, it will be my last show, but that does not mean that I'm going to disappear into the darkness. You will still see me. Doing other things on YouTube and, putting out podcasts. Just it will not be with GSMC. Again, nothing bad, nothing happened. They didn't say we're done with you. No, this was just a we had conversations, and this is what's going to happen. So don't be discouraged about it. But yeah, it's going to be different because, again, I've been doing this for a while now, and it's gone very fast. But yeah, so next Friday will be my last show hosting a GSMC podcast. So yeah, just wanted to bring that to light. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, now we talked about not going into the darkness. Well, let's talk about someone that has gone into the darkness, and that is Aaron Rodgers. So he was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and like I said, didn't give us, hey, I'm going to be playing here next year, like he did with the Jets, back in the day. That's weird to say back in the day because, it did happen a couple of years ago. But he talked about everything still being on the table, whether it's retirement or playing. He did bring up the fact that there's stuff going on in his inner circle that he has to pay attention to, focus all of his attention on. And that's kind of why, maybe there's been a delay with him making a decision. Now, I know some people will probably roll their eyes at that, but you know what? However you feel about Aaron Rodgers, and again, we don't know what's going on in his inner circle. He's a human being, okay? We deal with stuff. I've dealt with stuff in my life. I'm sure people watching this podcast have dealt with stuff in their life within their inner circle that, needs attention. And if that's the case, if that is what is delaying his decision, that's fine with me. Because he's a human being, and if there's stuff going on in his life that he has to focus on, that's more important. That's more important. Your personal life, there's serious stuff going on. That's more important than, going to play football. Now, when it comes to the football talk, again, people are saying he's holding teams hostage. And look, here's the thing. I'm going to disagree with that. Because if the Steelers are a hostage, then they wouldn't be able to walk away. Now, you could say, well, the Steelers don't have a quarterback. They got Mason Rudolph, right? And they made the playoffs with Mason Rudolph. Now, he started the final 3 games to make the playoffs. So, and the Steelers are a roster that, you know what, they're not going to be a horrible team next year, even with Mason Rudolph starting. Like, they're going to win games. They'll find a way to win games. And, if they're a hostage, they wouldn't be able to walk away. They could walk away whenever they want. And they talked about waiting for Rodgers. They have no problem waiting. I mean, at some point they will walk away, but they have no problem waiting. When do you hear a hostage is willing to wait? So, no, I don't think he's holding them hostage. They could walk away whenever they want. The Vikings did it. The Giants, they pivoted. Now, they kind of left the Steelers with nothing right now, other than Mason Rudolph as the quarterback. So, yeah, I guess they will continue to wait. Now, Rodgers talked about, a lot of the reports that were out there that, he was, maybe waiting for the Vikings to maybe come back to him and say, hey, we want you. He said that wasn't true. He talked about how, when there were the reports out there that the Jets were begging for, or he was begging the Jets to let him play for them again. He said that wasn't true. He did say that, the coaches that he met with, he talked about Brian Dable. He spoke very highly of Brian Dable. Now, look, as a Rodgers fan, I would have liked to have seen him sign with the Giants just because it's my team. And, just to see him play 1 year for the Giants, I think, for me personally, I would enjoy that. I'm kind of in the minority with that, but I would enjoy that. But he did talk about his meeting with the Jets, and it's very interesting how the meeting went down. So, if you remember, Rodgers flew out there to meet with Muji and Aaron Glenn. Muji, the GM, Aaron Glenn. And, to discuss whether they want to bring him back or not. So, according to Rodgers, he flies out there, he meets with Aaron Glenn, and they're talking. Rodgers says he leaves the room, a little bit into the meeting, brings in the GM, brings in Muji, and then, Rodgers is talking to the Muji, and then Aaron Glenn goes, so do you want to play football? And Rodgers says, yeah, I'm interested. And Aaron Glenn supposedly said, not supposedly, but said, we're going in a different direction. And this supposedly happened very quickly into the meeting. And Rodgers said that he was caught by surprise by it just because of how fast they were like, yeah, we're moving on. We're going in a different direction. Because he was expecting that he was going to come to the Jets, they were going to talk for a while, and then there would be some kind of resolution, a couple of hours in or something. Not a couple of minutes or, 20 minutes, whatever it was. So, and supposedly Aaron Glenn said that, he doesn't want, like, when he's addressing the team, he doesn't want Rodgers to undermine what he's saying. He doesn't want the team to look at Rodgers and be like, what do you think of what he's saying? Like, Rodgers would have more power than Aaron Glenn. And, Rodgers basically said, like, listen, I don't care about that, like, and, you don't know me. That's what he said. And then Aaron Glenn said, you don't know me. And Rodgers said, yeah, I don't. He said, yeah, I don't know you. That's why I flew all the way out here to meet with you guys and to see what your vision is for the team and, what I would bring to the table, how this relationship could work. But he said he was fine with them moving on from him. It's just he was not fine with, you basically made me come out here for a quick meeting just to tell me you're not going to be the quarterback next year. They basically said, we wanted you to fly out here. And they said that, they wanted to ask him how, actually, no, that's what he said. They said, they wanted him to fly out and they wanted to ask, like, how, they wanted this to be released. And he said he didn't care about that. It was more about, hey, what's the future of the team looking like? Do you guys want me? Do you not want me? If this relationship could become a thing, how would it work? But it didn't last very long. Now, I'll come to the defense of Rodgers in this respect. If that was the case, if their mind was made up, right, and they knew they weren't going to move forward with him as the quarterback next year, prior to him flying out from California to meet with them, then just tell him over the phone, tell him over Zoom. Why are you wasting everybody's time? That's not a good look. But what I will say is, on the surface, again, we have to see what happens on the field. But Aaron Glenn doesn't want to deal with that distraction. So I side with him on that. You want to start over. You don't want to have that kind of personality on this team when you're trying to get your footing in as the head coach. So that I understand with, but you could have had this conversation again over the phone, on a Zoom call. It was kind of a waste of time to have Aaron Rodgers fly out there if you were just going to say, no, we're not moving forward with you. And didn't really pick his brain. You got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time sitting there, and you're like, yeah, we don't need you. We're good. Now, look, Rodgers did not play great last year. I mean, he played better towards the end of the year when he was healthier. So, I have no problem with them moving off of Rodgers, but, if Rodgers comes back next year and he has a great year and the Jets, win like 3 games, it's really going to look bad on Aaron Glenn. It is. Because you kind of disrespected him. Now, some people watching this are going to say, good. They're happy that he got disrespected. He didn't play well. He was a distraction. He let people lose their jobs. His level of play costed people their jobs. Okay. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you did not want to talk to him. So that was interesting. So yeah, just to clear that up, Rodgers was talking more so he doesn't care about how the releasing news would come out. That's what he was talking about. But when talking about, when Aaron Glenn would address the room and if Rodgers was on the team, he said, Rodgers said, you don't know me. Like, how do you know I'm going to do that? How do you know I'm going to make faces? Is what he was saying. Look, I don't know. Rodgers could have been exaggerating it. The Jets are going to maybe say something. I know Sports Talk Radio, by me says, don't say anything. Let this, just sit there. Don't respond to it. There are things that I agree with Aaron Glenn, and there are things that I agree with when it comes to Rodgers' side. Again, if that's how fast the meeting was, you should have just held it over the phone. You should have had a Zoom call or something. But Aaron Glenn wants people to look at him as the leader. They don't want people to look at Rodgers and say, that's who we're going to follow. You're just an accessory. At least that's how I look at it. But let me know what you guys think about the Rodgers stuff. Let me know in the comments. So no decision yet. No decision yet. But there'll be one at some point. Everything's on the table. So we're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we will talk about the play-in games for tonight. I'll give you my predictions for those. So make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are now going to preview the play-in games tonight. We got the Hawks and the Heat tonight, and then we have the Grizzlies and the Mavericks. And these are elimination games. Whoever wins these games moves on to the playoffs, even though I still would pair this up with the playoffs. But again, it's a separate thing. It's a separate thing. It's what gets you into the real deal. So the first game will be on. That's the Heat and the Hawks. That'll be on at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be a TNT vehicle. And then the Mavericks-Grizzlies game will be on ESPN. And that'll be on at 9:30. So, or it'll be on whenever the first game ends. The Hawks right now are 1-point favorites over the Heat. The Grizzlies are 6-point favorites over the Mavericks. The Hawks, they lost to the Magic. The Heat, they knocked off the Bulls. The Grizzlies, they lost that tough game to the Warriors by the heroics of Steph Curry. And the Mavericks, they played really well against the Kings. And they're coming in with a lot of confidence. So, to talk about the first game. So, I went against Eric Spoelstra when it came to the Heat. Because the Bulls, I liked how the Bulls have been playing. They've been playing a lot better. And, I just... That's kind of where I went with that. Kind of disrespected the Heat a little bit. Because, Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league still. The Heat right now, they're not as loaded as they have been in years past. Right? Now, some of the guys that are on the team, they've been to the NBA Finals, and they still have good players. But, I also was like, the Bulls are due for a play-in win against the Heat. Why don't we pick them? It's not the right choice. Here, I'm not going to make that same mistake twice when it comes to the Heat. I will take them in this game, although, it's going to be tough because you got to give respect to the Hawks. You got to give respect to Trae Young because he could take over a game by himself. And, this game's going to be a little bit different. Are the Heat going to jump out to this big lead like they had against the Bulls? Because that's what the two teams that won in the play-in, they jumped out. What happened? They jumped out to these big leads, And yeah, like things maybe got a little bit closer in the second half, but the games are never in jeopardy for the Heat or the Mavericks. They were able to hold on and win because they built up these huge leads that were tough to overcome. To kind of take a look at more into this game. So the Heat have won 5 of their last 6 road games. The Hawks, on the other hand, they've struggled with, they're dealing with some injuries. And I'm curious to see what the future holds for the Hawks. Again, this is a team that's, hasn't really, made a run in quite some time. I know Trae Young, he's been part of trade rumors, right? I don't know if they would trade him, but I'm curious to see what happens if they were to lose this game. Now, whoever does win this game, let's be honest, they're going to be playing the Cavs, probably going to get swept. So, it's not like I expect these teams to pull off an upset. Now, if the Heat had Jimmy Butler, well, we've seen Jimmy Butler and the Heat pull off an upset, against the Bucks, a few years ago. But it's not going to happen here. Tyler Hero was very good in the game against the Bulls. He finished with 38 points. Bam Adebayo had a good game with the double-double. So, they're going to get their numbers. Trae Young in the game against the Magic the other night, he had 28 points. So I expect him to have a big game as well. And the Hawks are home, so that also benefits them as well. But yeah, I'm leaning towards the Heat. I'm going to take the Heat in this game. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. Now, what's going to end up happening is the Hawks are going to end up winning. Like Trae Young will have like 45 points, and they'll end up winning the game. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Heat. I think the Heat are the better team in this spot. Obviously they aren't a great team, but again, the teams in the Eastern Conference that are in the play-in, other than other than the Magic, who dealt with injuries, and had they not have had injuries to their best players, they probably would have finished with a better record. But yeah, the teams in the play-in are not great in the Eastern Conference. So yeah, I'm leaning towards the Heat in this spot. Do I say it's going to be a close game? Because I know I said it was going to be a close game when the Heat were playing the Bulls, and it really wasn't close. But yeah, I think the Heat win, and they move on. That's what I'm going with. That's my pick. Now the second game, we got the Mavericks and the Grizzlies. Now, John Morant got hurt in the game against the Warriors. Injured his ankle. He missed Thursday's practice. He's a game-time decision as of right now. My gut feeling is he's going to play. The season's on the line. He's got to play in this game. But having said that, look, the Grizzlies, they fired their coach, but right before the playoffs. All right, and I didn't talk about this when we recapped the game earlier in the week, but the Grizzlies had a 5-second violation when they were trying to inbound the ball late. And we were talking about this in our production meeting. That doesn't happen when you have an experienced head coach, right? Maybe it does, but the Grizzlies right now, they have an interim head coach. All right, the Mavericks have Jason Kidd. And I think Jason Kidd is decent, right, as a head coach. Is that fair to say? So, and the Mavericks, they played really well the other night. Now, this is going to be, again, this game is going to be different. All right, the Grizzlies have more talent. Right? They've been the better team. But I think the Mavericks are coming in with a different kind of confidence. Anthony Davis played well the other night. They got the size that matches up well against the Grizzlies. And, I think they're coming in motivated. I think with them having a head coach, the energy they were coming out with the other night, I think they could pull it off here. I think they pull it off, get the win, they move on, and they play the Thunder. And look, I did pick the Kings the other night. I was kind of pulling for the Mavericks to win. Because again, I just feel bad for the fans and, everything that's happened with the Lucas stuff. I'm going to take the Mavericks. I'm going to take the Mavericks. Now, if John Moran doesn't play, that only betters their chances of winning. And, Desmond Bane had a good game the other night. The Grizzlies still have, good players on this team. I think Edey also had a good game the other night as well. So, yeah, I mean, the Grizzlies win. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, Edey had 14 points and 17 rebounds. So, but yeah, like the Mavericks have some big dudes on their team. And they're as healthy as they're going to be. Klay Thompson, he had a good game the other night. He's going to play a big role. Anthony Davis, obviously. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards the Mavericks here to get into the playoffs. And we'll see what happens when they play the Thunder. Well, I think we all kind of know what's going to happen anyways. But if it does happen, that will buy the Mavericks more time. That'll buy Nico Harrison more time. Because they said they packed for 8 days. So they are expecting to make the playoffs. And we will see if that happens. So I'm taking the Heat tonight, and I'm taking the Mavericks tonight. Again, we're still waiting on the status of John Morant. If he doesn't play, that is a huge blow to the Grizzlies. They need him in this game. But we will see. We will see. But let me know what you guys think about the games tonight. Who do you think wins? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will continue talking about the NBA. We will talk about the playoffs. I will give you my predictions for the playoffs. Okay? Who is going to move on in the first round, the second round? We'll get to the conference finals. Who do I have in the conference finals? And who gets into the NBA finals and who wins the NBA finals? We are going to get into all that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, I'm going to give you guys my predictions for the NBA playoffs and how I see it playing out. Now, it might be a little chalked, but let's get into that. So, I picked the Mavericks. I picked the Heat. Now, regardless of who wins these games tonight, I don't expect them to advance in the playoffs. Really, more so for the Eastern Conference. I mean, the Western Conference, yeah. I mean, if the Grizzlies move on, the Mavericks move on, who knows against the Thunder? Are the Thunder going to? I mean, they did advance in the playoffs last year, one round, but then they got knocked out. But yeah, I feel like anything really can happen in the Western Conference. But yeah, I would still take the Thunder. I'm going to take the Thunder and the Cavs both to move on. The 2-1 seeds. What a surprise. But let's get into the series that start tomorrow. So you have the Bucks and the Pacers. They get us started off. Clippers and Nuggets after that. Pistons and Knicks after that. And then the night game is the Timberwolves against the Lakers. Now, it is official. I will be going to Madison Square Garden on Monday for Game 2 of the series between the Pistons and the Knicks. So let's start off with the game that gets us started. The playoffs started, and that is the Bucks and the Pacers. So, this one is going to be a very competitive series, right? It's going to be very competitive. Last year the Pacers got the best of the Bucks. There was no Giannis in that series. Now, maybe it's possible that Damian Lillard comes back later in this series because he was cleared, to resume basketball activities. Obviously dealing with the blood clot. And if they can get him back, at some point during the series, that would be huge. But I could definitely see this series going the distance, going 7 games. But I like the Pacers. I like the Pacers to win in 7, move on to the next round. Listen, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and obviously watching them up close against the Knicks, they're a good team. Now, it's a new year, obviously. I mean, now we go from last year where the Bucks had no Giannis and just Damian Lillard to the opposite. So it's going to be a different kind of series. But and actually, the Pacers are favored. They're 5.5-point favorites tomorrow in this game. But yeah, I like the Pacers here, and they got home court for this series, so that'll play a role. So I like the Pacers to win in 7. Clippers and Nuggets. This game is such a toss-up, right? It is such a toss-up. I don't know what to do with this series. The Nuggets have played better since they let go of Michael Malone. The Clippers are playing some really good basketball. I mean, when Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are clicking, they remind you, like, hey, we're really good players. We're Hall of Famers. So this is a very tough series to pick. And obviously the Nuggets have, the best player in the NBA right now, Nikola Jokic. I'm going to take the Nuggets in 7, though. I think this is going to be a very tough series. This is going to be another one that could go 7. But I'm going to lean towards the Nuggets winning and advancing. So now we get to the Pistons and the Knicks. This is going to be a very tough series. The Knicks, they went 1-3 against the Pistons this year. Cade Cunningham has played well against them. The Knicks are healthy. They're healthy. Now they got their whole squad ready to go for this series. I'm going to say the Knicks win in 6. It's going to be a very tough series. I mean, I could definitely go 7. Hopefully in my first ever NBA experience, I go and, they win. But it is going to be a very, very tough series. The Pistons, everybody talks about their physicality. And the Knicks, they kind of lack that physicality that they had last year. So we'll see what happens. But having said all that, I like the Knicks to win this series. It's going to be a tough series, but I think they will edge out the Pistons here. Timberwolves and Lakers. All right, this I think is going to be a very good series too. You know, you got the young stud in Anthony Edwards on one side, and then of course you got the veteran in LeBron James. But you also have the 40-year-old in LeBron James on the other side, who's still doing it at a high level, along with Luka Doncic. I like the Lakers to win in 6. You know, the Timberwolves, look, they went on a run last year, and I thought the way they were playing at times in the playoffs, I thought they were going to go to the NBA Finals, and then Luka and the Mavericks happened. So now it's going to be Luka and the Lakers happen. Luka, LeBron, and the Lakers. I think they win in 6. I do worry about the lack of size on the Lakers. But, look, you got Luka and LeBron James, and they could take over a game, and I think they're going to win this in 6. So, I got the Pacers moving on, I got the Nuggets moving on, the Knicks, and the Lakers. Now we go to the other series. So, the Cavs, they will be playing the winner of the Heat or the Hawks. I think they'll move on. And then, you know, the Grizzlies or the Magic or the Mavericks, they'll play the Thunder. The Thunder are going to move on. We said that. Now let's go. All right, now let's go to the others. Magic and the Celtics. So I think this will be a gentleman's sweep. I think the Magic steal at least one game because I feel like the Celtics, they drop at least one game. I feel like that happens. But the Celtics are going to win this series. You know, look, the Magic, they got some good players, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, but the Celtics are just in a different stratosphere. So I'm taking them, and I will take the Warriors to upset the Rockets. 7 upsetting a 2. Is it really that big of an upset? But it is, I guess, an upset. You know, I haven't watched the Rockets this year. They're a good team. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, though, look, they got that experience. Playoff Jimmy, playoff Steph. Steph Curry has never lost a playoff series to the Rockets. So, I'm going to take them and the experience. So, now, I picked those teams. So in the second round, I got to see what the matchups would be here if it will show me. So yeah, we got the Thunder moving on. I think the Warriors would then end up playing in the second round, right? Would they end up playing? They would end up playing the Lakers. No, they would end up playing. They're either playing the Lakers or the Thunder, right? So I just want to run through this quickly because I think the seeding might be a little bit different. You know, because obviously, like when in the NFL, you know, you play the 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed, and let's see. So, yeah, we did that. Now, okay, so the Thunder would play the Nuggets. So, I mean, again, it's tough because, you know, the Thunder have been the best team all year in the Western Conference. The Nuggets obviously are without a head coach, but they have the best player. That's tough. I probably would lean towards the Thunder. I would lean towards the Thunder, and I would take them in 7 over the Nuggets. Yeah, maybe I'd take them in 6. Lakers Warriors. I mean, second round matchup between LeBron James and Steph Curry. Sign me up. This one I think will go 7 games, but I'm actually going to lean. I'll lean towards the Lakers there. Cavs and Pacers. I think the Pacers maybe could grab a game or two, but I think the Cavs have just been too good. I think they'll overwhelm them. And then you got the Knicks and the Celtics. Gentleman's sweep. 5 games. So, we got the Thunder and the Lakers, and then the conference finals would be the Celtics and the Cavs. Celtics I am picking in 7 over the Cavs to get back to the NBA Finals. For the Thunder and the Lakers in 7. Lakers in 7. So then that would set up a Lakers-Celtics NBA Finals. And who do I think will win that? The Celtics have been one of the top teams. They're the defending champs. The Lakers, with LeBron being back in the finals against the Celtics, with Luka. And, Luka was on that Mavericks team that lost in the finals last year. I'm picking the Celtics to repeat. They win a tough series. They win in 7 games. They're just too good. I think they're on that path to win another title. So I got the Celtics over the Lakers in 7 in the NBA Finals to win it and repeat as champions. I mean, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, that duo with the other role players on the team, with Porzingis and Pritchard and Derek White, Horford. I mean, the team is just so deep. Drew Holiday. I mean, could the Cavs knock him off? Absolutely. It would be interesting to see the Cavs and the Lakers in the finals. LeBron against his former team. But that's what I'm rolling with. I'm picking the Celtics to win. It's kind of a chalky pick, but that's how I see the playoffs playing out in my eyes. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you have going to the NBA Finals? How do you see these first-round matchups playing out? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our next break, we're going to talk about Aaron Judge and the start that he's gotten off to this year. Can he keep this up as he approaches his mid-30s? And how long can he play up to this level? We will get into that conversation when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Aaron Judge and the start that he's gotten off to. And can he keep it up? And how long can he play at this elite level? So, Aaron Judge is now 32. He's going to be 33 soon. I think he's going to be 33. Is it this month? Either way, he's going to be 33 this year. Yeah, he is going to be 33 this month. He's going to be 33. He turns 33 next Saturday. And with baseball players, you expect to see that level of production start to decline, as you're in your 30s and beyond that. But, knock on wood, there has not been a sign of decline with Aaron Judge, as he is now in his age 32, going on 33 season. Aaron Judge, to look at his numbers to start off the year, in 70 at-bats this year, he is batting 400. 400. And we're halfway through April already. He's got 7 home runs, 22 RBIs. He's got a couple of stolen bases. And he has a 1283 OPS. He's on a revenge tour. He was named team captain of Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. And the Yankees right now are in first place. They're playing good baseball as of late. They've won 4 in a row now. They won last night. Very odd last night because they were playing in George M. Steinbrenner Field, which is their spring training facility. But that's the race home for 2025. So it was weird, seeing them play a regular season game there. And they're the road team. They're playing in their road uniforms there. They're usually the home team there, but that's not the case this year. But yeah, Aaron Judge has been on a tear to start off the year. And it was the opposite last year. Because last year, he got off to a slow start. And had he not had gotten off to a slow start like he did in April, he probably would have broke his home run record. And right now, he's on pace to do that this year. And I hope he does. It's weird because every year, these last couple of years now, I just expect Aaron Judge to go out there and hit 60 home runs. That's my expectation for him in the regular season. And I never had that with a player. In all my years of watching the Yankees, I have never had that kind of expectation for a player. But that's just what he's been doing. He has gotten better as he's gotten older. And, well, obviously, yeah, that makes sense. But now, you're approaching your mid-30s soon. Is he going to still be doing this? When he gets to 35, 36, 37, towards 40, is he going to be able to keep this up? Who knows? But I do remember, if we recall, he ran into the wall at Dodger Stadium and, the toe injury happens and, everyone's saying, oh, he's never going to be the same. He's not going to be the same player. Well, I think he's fine. He won MVP the following year. And if he keeps this up, now I don't expect him to be batting 400 the whole year. No, he's going to come back down. It's going to come back down. But Aaron Judge can win another MVP. If he could stay healthy, which he has done, other than freak injuries happen. Aaron Judge has gotten hurt because, he's this big guy and, we've had, him get hurt from diving for a ball in the outfield, running into a wall, getting hit by a pitch. That's how Aaron Judge has gotten hurt. Aaron Judge is not pulling a hamstring. He's not, tweaking, a calf muscle. He's not doing any of that. Now, he has stayed relatively healthy. If he didn't run into that wall, also he was put on the COVID IL back in 2021. He missed, or no, was it 2021? Yeah, it was 2021. Yeah, I think it was. But either way, now I forgot what I was saying. With Aaron Judge now, the Yankees, they are in a position where, hey, they got to preserve him. And now that he's back in right field, I think that's beneficial for him because, now there's not all this ground that he has to cover. And at some point, maybe Aaron Judge gets moved to first base. And if not that, once Giancarlo Stanton is out, Aaron Judge is going to be playing DH. So they're going to preserve him as much as they can. And I don't think we're going to see Aaron Judge hitting, close to 60 home runs every year his entire career. And if we do see that, this might be, he already is on track to being one of the greatest. He already is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. And if he was able to hit close to, if he was hitting 50 home runs every year into his 40s, there's a chance, hey, he's going to climb that home run list. And he got brought up a little too late because he's not on that pace. I think he'll get to 500 home runs, but I don't think, we're going to see him get any more than that. Hopefully we get to see Stanton get to that because he's close. But, what we're witnessing right now is amazing. It really is. And, I've become very sentimental, in recent years. And, growing up, I never thought, watching the core four play towards the end of their careers, I never thought they were going to retire. And then they did. Everybody's career comes to an end. We see it across all sports. All these quarterbacks that have retired over the years, and soon we're going to start seeing that in the NBA with, that current era. I mean, we started to see that, but, at some point, LeBron James is going to call it a career. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, those guys are going to call it a career at some point, and we're not going to see those guys play basketball anymore. So there's a lot of things coming to an end at some point. But back to Aaron Judge, I want to enjoy it as much as I can because at some point it's going to end. I mean, not anytime soon, but it's going to come to an end. And when that day comes, it's going to be sad. It's going to be sad, and someone else is going to have to step in and take his place. And he's the one that basically took Derek Jeter's place and, and was named captain. So at some point you would imagine we'll see someone take over for Aaron Judge. But could he keep this up into his 40s? Again, I think it all comes down to the Yankees trying to preserve him and keep him off his feet as much as they can. I think if you see Aaron Judge primarily become a DH, I think you could still see him produce. I mean, I actually wanted to look up. Well, go back to A-Rod back in 2015. A-Rod. Well, also A-Rod was out for a couple of years because of the PED use and the suspension. But you go back to A-Rod's 2015 season. He hit 33 home runs. And he was, 38? 37, 38, 39 years old? Aaron Judge could do that. A-Rod's 49 now. So let's see. He's 49 now. It's 2025. He's going to be 50 in July. So let's go back to 2016. That was 9 years ago. So he was 40. Yeah, so he was 38, 39 years old. And he hit 33 home runs. Aaron Judge could do that. Now, that's a lot less than, hitting the 58 and the 62. And then I wanted to look at Pujols' last year. So Pujols in his last year, and he was with the Cardinals. How many home runs did he hit? Let's see. Pujols in his final year, he hit 24 home runs, and he was 42. Yeah. I mean, that's, again, a lot less than 58 and 62, but Aaron Judge could definitely do that. He'd definitely do that. Right now, things are a little different because, he's still in the prime of his career. And, Giancarlo Stanton has kind of got that DH spot landlocked as of right now. But Giancarlo Stanton, his contract's going to be up at some point before Judge's. So, then you could DH Judge a lot more. Give him those half days off. Which, look, I love Giancarlo Stanton, but, yeah, I'll be happy when they have that flexibility back. But, listen, Giancarlo Stanton had a postseason for the ages. Last October. And he's been a good Yankee. So it's going to be sad when his contract is up and he leaves. Because the Yankees they're not going to re-sign him. When that contract is up, he's gone. So yeah, going to appreciate him, and hopefully he comes back soon. But yeah, the Yankees need that flexibility. They need that. But yeah, I think Aaron Judge, maybe not necessarily keep up the, 50 home runs a year pace, but I mean, I think he could hit 30 plus home runs as he gets into the later stages of his career. I think we're going to see a couple more years of this. I think we will see that. But who knows? But what we are seeing is amazing. And, I hope this leads to something. I don't want Aaron Judge to go a whole career without winning a ring. He deserves one. But we'll see what happens. There's plenty of season left. But let's see what kind of season we're in store for again with Judge, because he doesn't have Juan Soto batting in front of him. Doesn't matter. He is still putting up fantastic numbers, and let's see if that continues. So we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we will do our post-free agency rankings for the teams in the AFC West. So that'll bring us right into the weekend. So with that being said, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the final part of the show, we're going to do our post-free agency rankings for the AFC West. This is going to be a very good division next year. I think, some of the teams that, 3 of the 4 teams made the playoffs, but I do think the Raiders even improved. Now, I don't think they're going to compete for the division. I think they still got a little bit to go before they are, really competitive in this division, but they're going to be a better team. They're going to win more than 4 games next year. I do believe that, because they're going to have better coaching. I think the quarterback position's improved, whether you believe in Geno Smith or not. I do think Geno Smith is an upgrade compared to what they had last year. I think we can all agree on that. And we still got the draft. But having said all that, the Raiders will be number 4 in my rankings here. So they traded for Geno Smith. They signed Jeremy Chin, Lonnie Johnson Jr., a couple of safeties for the secondary. They signed Landon Roberts, linebacker. They signed Eric Stokes from the Packers, a corner. They signed Raheem Mostert. Running game was not great last year. I expect them to take Ashton Genty. I've been saying that constantly. They brought in Devin White, Darnay Holmes. Not a ton of splash moves, but other than, I guess, Geno Smith. But you know what? With Pete Carroll at the helm, this team is going to be a lot more competitive, in my opinion. Like I said, I expect them to win more than 4 games next year. But I think they're still going to be a last-place team, in my opinion. I like the other teams in the division better. So we move on, and second and third. At number 3, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I actually am going to put them at number 3. I do like the signings that they made. Some of them. I like the Mekhi Becton signing, adding him to the interior of the offensive line. He played well last year on the Eagles' O-line. They brought in Najee Harris, and I think maybe running behind that offensive line, I think you might see a better version of Najee Harris next year. They brought back Mike Williams to add to that receiving core. I expect the Chargers to maybe make a move at receiver during the draft, unless maybe they sign Keenan Allen. I'm still campaigning for that. I want to see Keenan Allen go back. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Ladd McConkey, I'll take it. Because Keenan Allen could still play. I mean, if you bring back Mike Williams, bring back Keenan Allen. But maybe they're waiting until after the draft. They did sign Jalen Reagor as well. But, that's kind of a depth signing. Tyler Conklin they brought in. They re-signed Khalil Mack. They actually brought in Trey Lance to back up Justin Herbert. Actually, no, they also brought back Taylor Heineke as well. Tony Jefferson, Dante Jackson, a couple of defensive backs they signed. So, I still think the Chargers need to make some upgrades. I think you're going to see them, draft a receiver maybe in this draft, maybe a running back. Secondary, you could see maybe they draft someone on the defensive line. They did lose Joey Bosa, so you could see that maybe. But look, the Chargers are going to be a good team next year. They in the first year of the rebuild, they won 10 games. Obviously, the playoff game did not go how they hoped it would, but that's okay. You know what? It's year one, and Jim Harbaugh, he's got his fingerprints all over this team. They're going to be better next year. I do have the Broncos at 2. I think the Broncos are going to be really good once again. I loved the moves they made. They signed a couple of 49ers players to add to the defense that was already good last year. They signed Evan Ingram, a target that is really going to help Bo Nix. And if Bo Nix takes a big step forward next year, they're going to be even better. I think there's only more to grow. There's only it's only up from here. And Bo Nix surprised me a little bit last year because I didn't really know what to expect. But with Sean Payton getting his guy, that he played really well. The playoff game got off to a fast start, and then obviously the Bills then took over. But I like the direction this team is going in. And I think with now Ufanga and Dre Greenlaw, guys that were both coming back from injuries last year, they're both healthy. They are really going to make a difference on this defense. With the pass rushers that they have, the secondary, this is going to be a good team. Now, I think Broncos are another team that I think I definitely see them taking a running back in the draft. They kind of need to figure out their running back position. So I could see them taking a running back. Maybe another receiver. We'll see. But I got them at 2. And then at number 1, I still have the Chiefs. Now, there's talk about maybe the Chiefs not even making the playoffs next year, which I think is ridiculous. We've had that conversation. Well, not we, but the media has had that conversation in years past, and then they went on and won the Super Bowl. Like the year after they traded Tyreek Hill, they won the Super Bowl. Well, the year they traded Tyreek Hill, they won the Super Bowl. That's what I meant to say. I think they'll make the playoffs. Do I think, that they're going to be the favorites to get out of the AFC? Well, I guess so, but I'm not going to pick them to get back to the Super Bowl next year. I'm not. This is the year that they kind of take a year off. Now, could they make it back to the AFC Championship game? Yeah, that's not almost. That is a guarantee since Mahomes started being quarterback. But they did lose some guys. They traded away Joe Thuney. And the offensive line does need some work. They did address it. They signed Jalen Moore, backup tackle to Trent Williams. They signed Gardner Minshew to be the backup. They brought back Kareem Hunt. They brought back Juju Smith-Schuster. They brought back Marquise Brown. A lot of the moves that they made, was bring back guys in-house. Nick Bolton, Charles Omenihu. So, yeah, a lot of people are down on the Chiefs. But, look, they got Andy Reid. They got Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones. You could say they still have Travis Kelce, even though he's obviously on the older side. But they're still the Chiefs, and you still got to give them that respect. Now, could they get knocked off this year? Could a team surpass them in the division? Sure. But I got to see it to believe it. Got to see it to believe it. Now, I saw in the Super Bowl, they just got outclassed in every way against the Eagles. And we've seen them get outclassed in the Super Bowl before, so now it's happened twice. We've seen them lose in an AFC Championship game. But now we got to see them lose in a playoff game earlier than the AFC Championship game. We got to see them get knocked off by another team in their division. The other teams in their division are getting better. So yeah, the gap has definitely been narrowed, but they're still the Chiefs. So I still have them at number 1. So I got the Raiders at 4, the Chargers at 3, the Broncos at 2, and the Chiefs at 1. Let me know what you guys think about those rankings. How would you rank the AFC West? So that brings us to the end of the post-free agency power rankings. So now the draft, we'll see how these teams go about it and how they continue to build up their teams for next season. But yeah, that basically brings us to the end of the show today. So I know I did drop a huge bombshell on you guys about next week being my last week with GSMC. But yeah, look, we're going to make the most of it. It's been a lot of fun. And, just make sure to tune in and, comment. We can have a discussion throughout the week. Obviously, next week is big because it's the draft. So we're going to go out with a bang. We're going to obviously be able to react to what, the Giants did the following day. That will be on the last show. It's going to be a fun week. It's going to be a fun week. So, but yeah, next week, as a reminder, that will be my last show. And of course, as we get to the end here, my camera decides to glitch out on me, and it would not be a show without the camera turning off. So, look, I appreciate you guys' support. Again, next week will be the last week of the show. And we got it back up. So make sure to tune in as much as you can. And if you miss out, look, the segments will be up. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. So it's very easy to consume the show even if you're not in during the live portion. But make sure to check out all the other shows on the network. Give the other shows support. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channels wherever you get your podcasts. Like I said, you can listen to us on the go. And, so enjoy the playoff NBA action this weekend. We also have the Stanley Cup playoffs starting tonight. We got a couple of games. Also, shout out to Sam Rosen, the play-by-play man for the Rangers. He concluded his final game doing play-by-play for the Rangers last night. Knew him from doing NFL on Fox. So his announcing career is over. But congratulations to him on a long career as the man for the Rangers. The Rangers, unfortunately, had a disappointing season, and he wasn't able to call any playoff games this year. They missed out, which, I mean, even as, not a big fan of hockey, I was surprised. I mean, I thought the Rangers were guaranteed to make the playoffs, but they did not. But, yeah, we have 3 games tonight, 3 game ones. You got the Devils and the Hurricanes, the Senators and the Maple Leafs, and the Minnesota Wild taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. That's tonight. So, got play-in action. Oh, wait, actually, no. That's Sunday. What am I saying? No, but there are games tonight. Are there games tonight? Yeah, that's on Sunday. I was still on the Sunday tab. Okay, so no, there are no games tonight. Tomorrow. No. Yes, tomorrow. You got the St. Louis Blues against the Winnipeg Jets. You got the Avalanche against the Dallas Stars. That's tomorrow. Then Sunday is all the games I just listed. I apologize for that. So 2 games tomorrow, 3 on Sunday. Also, if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. Yeah, so that is it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I went through everything. Support the other shows. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us there. So until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. And we will talk on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.